questions or anything thoughts that you need information on. You have the executives that want to have the CEO or pass. That's the questions. So you can deliver yourself, institution, ask the question, and then you get a response. There will be very quick questions. You have to move and then back questions. It will be important for you to speak very slowly so that the crowd will be able to understand what you say. Please do that. To identify yourself, your institution, and just be clear so that we understand what you say. Yeah.
So, my question goes to the Central Bank Governor. My name is Laura Fatuma, and I work for Tifa Radio. I work for Tifa Radio and that of quality newspaper as well. What is the rationale behind such program today that so many presidents they want to use for this unique program?
Financial education is very, very key to driving development in any country. You have a literate society, they are able to make decisions that can impact them now and into the future. So that is one of the key reasons why we are trying to focus on financial literacy. So you understand clearly how to use your revenue, how to invest, how to make those decisions that can impact you and your family. If you do not have that background, many times you make decisions that go against the objective that you set out to achieve for yourself. But once people are informed and are educated on how they can use their resources, it helps in building them up and securing their future. So that's the rationale for the launch of the education program. In terms of PAPS, it helps to grow the economy. It helps to move away from reliance on foreign currency. Because we have our own currencies as African countries. We're trying to come together to do regional integration, to have one single currency, for instance, beginning with the ECOWAS zone. So once we can come to one currency, then of course trade becomes seamless. But before we get to a single currency, we can begin to leverage the system that we have available now. So that if you have to do business in Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, you don't have to go through the hassle of converting to US dollars first. You can stay here, leverage the banks, money goes to whoever your supplier is in any of those countries, and it's seamless. And the transactions are done very, very instant. And you can originate the transactions yourself, you don't even have to wait for the bank. You have apps that are now available wherever you are able to operate your account without going into the bank. And that's the reason why the system is 24/7. So what we are trying to build is an economy that doesn't sleep. And so the first leg of that has been facilitated by African Exim Bank through PAPS. So on the PAPS platform, the economy is now open 24/7. And gradually the Liberian economy will also move to being open 24/7 as we launch our national electronic payment switch come 2026.
So my name is Lamoto from the Liberia Investigator. To pass boss, I want to know, there's a perception that this program is going to weaken the US dollars. Please provide a little information about that. And secondly, the CBL boss, how does the program align with the government arrest agenda for the development?
So I think let me take that first. In terms of the arrest agenda, the arrest agenda has a component in it which addresses financial inclusion. So the launch of these twin programs today helps to reinforce that so that you bring everyone into the same ecosystem. Now, with the past, what we are trying to move away from is the dependency on US dollars to facilitate trade. So if you have Liberian dollars, you don't have to go out there to convert to US dollars to do your trade. Once the trade is being conducted outside of Liberia, you can use Liberian dollars just as much as you use it in Liberia. You cannot use it outside of Liberia. So you want to order goods in Ghana and they are billing you in cities. You don't have to buy US dollars so that you go to the bank and the bank does the conversion and pay in US dollars. And the bank in Ghana always does the conversion to cities. official exchange rate is normally lower than the parallel market rate. And so there's a huge savings that comes to you, and it reduces all of that hassle. So you don't have to go out there, money exchangers to buy US dollars to facilitate this trade activities. So that's what we're trying to achieve, to reduce the dependency on US dollars. The US dollars are still essential for trade. What we're saying is that we want to reduce the dependency. One thing I want to stress is that normally when you convert the US dollars and go to your bank and you want to move funds to Ghana, it takes days. Because all transactions here that are denominated in US dollars will leave your bank. They have to go to New York. New York has to clear before they come back to Africa. Now you don't have that. If you want to move money to Ghana, it is Liberia direct to Ghana. They don't go through the United States or through New York to be cleared before. So what it does is it simplifies the process, it enhances the speed at which you can do business, and it reduces cost to you.
Some of the biggest challenges that we have in Africa is that all of our trade is dependent on these third-party global currencies, which we don't have. Today, what we're trying to achieve with PAPS is not to isolate Africa from the rest of the world. But today, Africa trades just about 15% with itself and about 85% with the rest of the world. We need to reverse that, because the more we reverse that, the more we engender prosperity. The jobs that are being created outside of the continent for the goods that we consume here can actually be created here. Because currencies work on the law of demand and supply, the more you do transactions leveraging your local currency, it will have a strengthening effect. Now, the idea of de-dollarization is not the focus. Our focus is let us drive trade, because Africa will still trade with the rest of the world, and it can do that with other third-party global currencies. But if a trader is trading between Nigeria and, say, Ghana, or Liberia and Ghana, we want to be able to actually reduce the amount of global third-party global currencies that are involved in that trade. That way we strengthen our currencies, and actually make trade easier. Now, today, when people make some payments, it takes 3 to 4 or 5 days to complete that payment. Those are days that the people do not have to continue to turn around their inventory. But if you make a payment and within 7 seconds, within 5 seconds, it arrives at the destination, then you have more time to actually focus on your business rather than spending time trying to confirm. There are a lot of benefits. So we are taking the decision to make this payment significantly cheaper than alternatives that exist in the market. So that way, it actually saves people money, saves the continent a lot of money, and actually helps us to take charge of our payments. Unlike when our payments have to travel halfway around the world before coming back to the continent, when we remove those steps, we actually take charge, because anybody that your payment touches can wake up one day and say, this person can no longer trade, or this person can no longer trade. By just keeping it within the continent, we gain sovereignty over our payments. And those are some of the values that we are creating as well.
We'll take one last question.
So Mr. Governor.
We'll take the last one. Yes.
One last question. My name is Trufon Flammer, and I report for Spoon Network. Saamoi, this is an initiative, especially in the past, that will revolutionize spending on the continent, transaction and all of that. But concerned about our partners, the West, America, these are people who've been using their currencies over the years. When you approach them on this initiative, what did they tell you about Africa moving from the West and America moving on its own in terms of transacting in their own currencies and all of that? And the next question is, what's your target group? Just be.
So firstly, we are not moving from the West. What we are doing is to encourage trade amongst African countries. That's the first payment we need to get right. we will still have to deal with the West. But if we encourage trade among ourselves, goods that are produced in Nigeria, in Ghana, and you can get them there, we're helping to build the economies of these countries. Items that cannot be produced on the African continent definitely will have to trade in the West and Europe to be able to get those. Now, the target group is everyone. So we don't have a specific group that we are targeting. Everyone can leverage on PAPs. If you have to buy a pair of shoes in Ghana, you don't have to take US dollars with you to go to Ghana to buy a pair of shoes. You can stay in Liberia, use your Liberian dollars, buy shoes in Ghana. What it does is that it helps the exchange rate. It helps to address inflation. Because the more you go after the US dollar to facilitate trade, the demand for US dollars increases. And a lot of supply and demand, to tell you, the more the demand, the higher the price. So if we encourage trade among ourselves using our local currencies, it reduces the demand of the US dollars. That also affects the exchange rate. And it helps to build the strength of our own economy. It helps to build your disposable income. So that's what we are trying to achieve. So that is open to everyone. It's not a particular group. Obviously, traders are the ones that are inputting. So we are looking at the traders. But anybody can leverage on PAPs. Once you have an account with your commercial bank, you can use it for any activity that involves cross-border payment.
Comments?
Yeah, final comment is, again, that's a very important question you asked. Our focus is how to drive trade on the African continent, and we're very focused on that. We will still have relationships with the outside world. Today is about 85%. If we're able to reduce that by just 10%, and make those 10% happen on the continent, the amount of jobs that this will create, the amount of value it will create on the continent is very significant. So we're not talking about stopping. We expect even that we explain to our partners in the West, we said they should be interested in a prosperous Africa. Okay, a prosperous Africa is in everybody's interest, and the volume of our trade will grow as well with them. But more importantly, we want to increase the quantum that we do on the continent. Now, another way to look at it is a small shoemaker in a remote part of Liberia, who today sees his market as maybe 5 million people within Liberia, with a system like PAPS, he's able to begin to see 1.4 billion Africans as his market, and be able to sell into those markets and not worry about how payment is made to him. That way, that small shoemaker will increase his capacity, he will employ more people because he's now serving a bigger market. So it has a ripple effect that impacts all economies in the continent positively.
Thank you, Governor.